to a Couple of Bills podcast. Featuring Matt and Kim Bills.
Well, hello everybody. This is Matt Bills.
And this is Kim Bills.
And this is another episode of a Couple of Bills podcast, episode 5. Today, we're doing a little special edition. We're going to do some Q&A. So on Facebook, we put out a question to the masses of, hey, if you could ask us any question, what would you ask us? And now we're going to answer them. So let's just jump right into it.
Let's jump right in.
All right,
Matt. So
you're going to ask? Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to let you know what one of the first questions was.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Somebody has asked us, what are your thoughts on passing on your wealth mindset for future generations?
Oh, well, and I have nothing in front of me here. I'm just going off the top. So hold on to your seats. Well, I think it's really, really important that we get away from, okay, let me back up. Thinking about what's still largely taught today are beliefs and practices that are a bit antiquated. So I think and actually in a lot of cases, it's a lot antiquated, not even just a bit antiquated. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the belief systems that are in place in terms of financial management or saving versus investing, it's not necessarily taught, or what is taught isn't really geared to building true wealth and being able to retire and not decrease your lifestyle. Or so many people who retire end up on fixed incomes, and it's not necessarily taught that, hey, it's actually a really positive thing to be able to retire and continue the life that you were living, or maybe even do more, and have the financial abilities to do that. So go ahead.
Yeah, we're always taught from a young age to save. But I have heard so many times, just in various books, audiobooks, whatever the case may be, podcasts, that you really can't save your way to wealth.
Yeah, that's
save your way to wealth.
Yeah, I think everybody listening to this should write that down, because that is, when you think about it. Think about the wealthiest people throughout history. The vast majority of them, sure, did they save money in some cases? Of course.
And saving money can be a great thing to do.
Yes. It's not like we certainly don't just blow through every dollar that we receive. Obviously we save money. But when we're talking about building wealth,
you can't just stick the money in a savings account and just sit back and relax and wait. You will be waiting a long time.
You'll be waiting a very, very, very long time. And again, when we talk about like our end game,
we want our money to be working for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until the day we die.
And I think that's, and I'm sure there are many avenues we can go down here, but and I'm sure we'll get to those in future conversations. But just to stick to the question, at its most basic level, I think we need to change the conversation. I think we need to change the conversation and make people not just understand that wealth isn't a bad thing. I think throughout history, wealth or being rich,
right? The word rich,
has a very, very negative connotation. And I guess let's all be fair and balanced here. There are plenty of quote unquote rich people out there who feed the stereotype as being pieces of shit. Totally get that. But there's also a lot of people that you never hear about who are wealthy, who give back, and who really have used their wealth, not just give themselves and their families an incredible, extraordinary life, but have made a big difference to those around them. So I think we need to get away from talking about how that make the idea that making money and making your money work for you and building actual wealth is somehow this negative thing or this impossible thing.
Mm-hmm. And keeping, with the question referring to future generations, it's awesome that future generations have so much more information at their fingertips than even we did when we were young.
Oh,
so that's amazing. There are so many different ways that they can educate themselves, podcasts, everything on the internet. I mean,
there's literally endless.
That's why I'm kind of stumbling over that, because there's so much information at their fingertips to help guide them through whatever route they want to go.
Yeah.
For wealth building.
Yep. Just, and obviously we're not parents, so we can't, I'm going to try to not bring parenting advice in here because we're not really qualified to give that type of advice. But I mean, if I were a parent, I'd be having these conversations as soon as my kid could start to grasp these concepts, I would definitely be planting those seeds. What he or she decides to do with that information, when they become an adult is up to them. But at least, I'd be able to, I guess, sleep at night knowing that I at least armed them with as much information as possible to be able to make some financially savvy moves once they begin making money, that it could set them and their family up for a healthy financial future.
Yep.
Anyway, well, that was pretty good.
All right.
Anyways, next question.
How often do you go over your goals as a couple?
Well, Kim screams at me every day. Every day.
About our goals?
Yep. Comes in, asks me where I'm at on things. She stands behind me a lot while I'm working and just stare. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't have a set frequency that we sit down and review our goals, but it's definitely multiple times per year. It kind of depends what types of goals we're referring to.
Right.
Thinking back to when we first decided that we wanted to invest in rental properties, I remember we made some pretty specific goals. We came to the conclusion that we wanted to have 10 rental properties by the time we were 45 years old. And I typed it out.
Oopsie, we're 33 and we own 14 houses now.
so that's an idea of, us re-examining our goals periodically when it was necessary. But I remember when we set those first goals, I printed it out on this little wallet-sized piece of paper, laminated it.
Yep.
And I said, here you go, put this in your wallet.
Yep.
I put it in my wallet, and, that way it was a written set of goals that we could refer back to and kind of stay accountable to.
And there was a number of times where I was having, where I was super stressed out at work. This is back in the corporate days, and having those days that everybody has where you're questioning everything you're doing and you're wondering if you want to even get out of bed that morning and go to work. And, and it was one of those things where I would definitely pull that thing out and pull that piece of paper out and look at it and remember why it is that we're doing what we're doing and that those stressful days were going to pay off one day.
Absolutely.
So it was helpful.
And we continue to reevaluate those goals around the rental properties as, our household income grew and as our rental income grew, we were able to reevaluate and put some different goals in place. And then, more recently, the goals were around, do we want to acquire more properties? Do we want to pay off existing properties that may not yet be paid off? So those types of goals have been reevaluated a couple times every year, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. No, that for sure.
And then if you're referring to goals around my real estate sales business, for example, at least, I set annual goals and then reevaluate it quarterly, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just kind of, see how things are going. And when I say reevaluate, ideally that would mean making sure I'm hitting that goal and then possibly setting a larger goal.
Yeah.
Near term.
Yep. Yeah. And for me, photography, I mean, I think, one goal I think I set for myself was I want to do at least 3 photo shoots a day.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah. And now it seems to be closer to 4 and 5 on most days. But generally speaking, I mean, it's not every day, but generally speaking,
An average of that many.
I would say that's that many on average per day. But yeah. Just to give someone, I guess, a more specific example, like before, like we would go and buy another rental property or explore, kind of what's out there to buy. We would sit down and look at how much cash we had in the bank. Not because we were going to buy the property in cash, and we're going to do a whole episode on how to buy properties without liquidating all of your cash. But we wanted to make sure we were still comfortable and we had enough, cash reserves on hand. So we would say, hey, we want to have, 100-something thousand or something in cash in the bank before we buy this next property, as an example, something like that.
Right.
Yep.
Alrighty. What is the best time management tool you have, separate and or shared tools? For me, time management starts with being organized, I would say. The best tool that I use to manage my time is definitely Google Calendars, as simple as that. I don't use a paper calendar because I want to be able to change my calendar on the fly no matter where I am. I want to always have that information at my fingertips so I can refer back to it if I'm curious about, hey, what does tomorrow's schedule look like? It's always there. And you use Google Calendars too, right?
Yeah. Remember when I wasn't? So and this is more specific to Get It Sold Listing Services, my real estate photography business. For a good amount of time, I wasn't using any scheduling tool.
It was crazy.
It was
I
literally.
cannot believe you were doing that for so long.
Yeah, I was creating connections with people, with agents around town. They would reach out to me, hey, can you photograph this listing for me? I would check my calendar. I was using my calendar, but I wasn't doing it in any type of automated fashion. So I was managing multiple photo shoots per day just from text messages. And for anybody who is even remotely involved in real estate, that things can change last minute.
And we get 100 text messages a day.
Oh my God. So I was just getting text after text after text, and I was trying, and for a long time, I would say most of the time I was able to manage that fairly successfully. But it got to the point, though, and I guess I'm thankful to say this, the business got to the point where I was doing so many photo shoots that it just wasn't possible. And I would start forgetting, or I'd miss an appointment, or I would, have the wrong time in the calendar or on my schedule that I put in manually, something like that. So anyway, ended up using, I think it's Acuity, right?
Acuity.
Yeah, Acuity.
It's a great scheduling tool.
Yeah,
online scheduling tool.
Yeah, go check that out if you want to have a really, really cool scheduling system that you can integrate into your website.
Yeah.
Super easy to use. But now real estate agents can just go to my website, which is getitsoldlistingservices.com, and basically click book now and see my entire schedule, all my availability, click their services that they want, pick the date and time, pay. I mean, it's so much easier. And then it gets automatically added, and it's just, it's just so much.
It's
so
synced
much
to your Google Calendar. So everything for you as well, you can see it no matter where you are, pull it up on any device. If I were using a paper calendar and I just told myself, I'll make sure to write that new appointment down on my calendar when I got home, it would never happen. I would forget it every time.
Yep.
And as far as time management goes as well, I don't time block necessarily. I know a lot of people use that type of time management tool very successfully, but I don't exactly time block. What I do like to do most days out of the week is when I wake up in the morning, and I do wake up early. I'm a morning person. I like to wake up between 5:30. I get up, grab a cup of coffee, go sit at my computer. And for the first hour, sometimes 2 hours of the day, that's when I really reflect on what does my next week look like? What does my day look like? Is there anything I need to catch up on from an administrative perspective? Is there anything I want to analyze in terms of our goals and our finances? Some mornings I wake up and I'm really focused on my real estate business for the day. Another morning, I may wake up and use that hour to analyze more household financial related topics, whatever the case may be. But those couple of hours in the morning, I feel play a big role in helping me manage my time and make sure that I'm always on top of things.
Yeah.
Could be
that's
because
awesome.
I'm such a morning person that's just a really good and productive time for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I try not to bother you after like 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah. I do my best thinking in the mornings, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right. Now, here's a good question. How do you define success?
How?
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, how do I define success? I would define success as having options. So what I mean by that is there is nothing for me.
Right. These are our personal
Yeah,
answers for how we define
Yeah.
success.
In fact, before I even go on, let me be clear. Your definition of success is very likely
it should be very different.
Yeah, everybody's life is different. What's important to everybody is different. And why I like that question in particular is because it's really cool to see what is important to everyone, and it varies widely. I mean, it really, really does. So, think about that. Think about that when because I want everybody to also reflect on some of these questions as well as they're listening. And so as you're reflecting, I mean, think about how do you define success? So anyway, back to my thought, I define success as having options. So what I mean by that is being able to having the time and the resources, really the freedom,
Yes.
to do what we want when we want. And I didn't realize truly how incredibly powerful that is until I think we were both working for ourselves. I think that is when we were able to really step back, and we'd wake up in the morning and be like, wow, like we have business on the calendars. We've got revenue coming in. We've got all these rental properties. We have the option to kind of do what we want right now. And that is something that I think is so incredibly rare. The majority of people spend their time according to someone else's schedule. And that is, and it's not to say that's a bad thing, because listen, you can absolutely work for someone else and be super happy,
Super fulfilled.
Absolutely. But again, you're asking us. So,
Right.
So this is our definition. But having the ability to, things as honestly as like, okay, we want to go on vacation, we can kind of go anywhere.
Right. And we're still accountable to our clients, but you're talking kind of on a broader scale.
Yes.
There are days where we cannot just go do whatever we want. We're
No,
certainly
totally.
not saying that, but
having it makes every 15-hour day that we work plus, it makes all of that worth it.
it really does.
When we can go to New York City and stay in a nice hotel, when we can go
If that's something we really wanted to do.
Yeah, if that's something we really wanted to do.
If that excites us,
if that was important to us, we're
our
like,
version of fun.
then that's what we would do. And we wouldn't have to sit there and do like mental gymnastics over should we or shouldn't we or can we. It's just we can. And that is the most liberating thing for us. And it really, it makes, for us, it makes everything worth it. It makes coming back from that vacation, and let's be honest, both of us are usually, we tend to be working to a certain
working
degree.
vacations, but it's because we choose that.
Yeah, that's not a big deal to us. We still, work and life, when you're a business owner, especially in the lines of business that we operate in, work and life are kind of one, they're intertwined. And that's okay. That's how we operate. That's what we love. It makes us happy. So anyway, I'm sorry. That was a really long answer.
I
but
completely agree with everything. The only thing that I might add to that is the ability to travel, which is really part of what you said.
Yeah.
But we love to travel. It certainly makes me feel as though I've reached a level of success when we can take, one of our nephews and niece to on an annual vacation.
Yeah.
That's something that really makes me happy. I love being able to do that.
For sure.
To me, that's
huge.
a huge piece of what success means to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that same vein, having the option to help different charitable organizations.
Yeah.
That's something you and I have
We're pretty close to a couple nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, we are. And that has been incredibly fulfilling, being able to not just spend our money, but our time and invest our time and our money in helping worthwhile causes in our community has been.
And connections, we're able to connect different people with organizations and help that way.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Having the ability to do that is huge. Anyway, so I guess that's how I would define success.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I encourage everyone out there to define that for themselves.
Yeah.
And have that as something you're working toward.
For sure.
Make sure your life is aimed at achieving that.
Yeah. And I would love, I think we both would, we would love just to hear what your definition of success is. So, on whether it's on our Facebook page or Instagram or YouTube channel, A Couple of Bills podcast across every platform, jump over there and comment on one of our posts. What's your definition of success? We'd love to hear it.
For sure. All right, Matt, here's a question. I think
wow, you really wound that one up. All right, Matt, here's the question.
I think we have received this a few times actually in our lives. Does lack of children add to your being millionaires?
Oh, man.
So we do not have children.
We do not have children. Shout out to Kim in Germany for that question, by the way. Hi, Kim.
Different Kim.
Oh, yeah. Different Kim. No, it's my secret wife, Kim.
I don't know. Maybe people thought I was in Germany right now.
I don't know. Well, it's a fair question. So I mentioned somewhere previously that, there's only a certain amount I can really, or either one of us can really comment when it comes to children because we don't have children, and we're always going to do our best to not speak on too many topics in this podcast that we don't know a whole lot about unless we're having the conversation with someone who is qualified to speak about it. But in the general sense of things, sure. Do I think that us not having kids has allowed us to spend that money invest
that money perhaps?
Invest that money in our business ventures that has created more money that otherwise would have been spent caring for a child. Sure, I think.
Yeah, we're not going to say, what do you mean kids don't cost money?
Yeah, no way. Yeah, I think it's reasonable for anybody to think that regardless of how much money you make, if a kid isn't in the picture, obviously that additional income.
Obviously, we don't have those expenses.
Yeah,
that expense.
Yeah, we don't have that expense. So, and on the other hand, could we say that, well, we're hustlers, and if we did have a kid, would we have just pivoted and did what we needed to do and invest in other areas and just do what was needed in order to get us to this point regardless? I don't know.
Yeah, we can't answer that.
I can't answer that. I don't know. But I mean, I guess, and sorry, Kim, I know that's not the best answer in the world, but that's our answer. I mean, I think that without that expense, I'm sure it helped, because kids are expensive. We know that from people who have kids. So.
Yep. Okay. These are awesome questions, though. Thank you, everybody who submitted these questions. All right, Matt, do each of you have roles in your businesses, or is it a total tag team effort?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, Kim yells at me a lot.
I'd say we have pretty differing roles.
Yes.
So with all of our businesses, I do handle the financial aspects of them.
Yep.
And by that, I mean, the first of every month or whenever I set aside time to review our finances, at least on a monthly basis. I take out the spreadsheets, and for each of the businesses, I document expenses, income. I categorize all of that information. It really helps make tax time, it's a tongue twister, time much easier because we have everything categorized. So that's a role that I've kind of taken on.
And we both enjoy the financial aspects of the business in terms of understanding them and doing analysis.
But, for sure.
But Kim, I mean, you're real nerdy about it. Like, so you're just like to the point where nerdy to the level to where it's for my own personal safety. It's better for me to just step back and let you do your thing.
For your own personal safety.
Yep.
I'm glad you know this. Let's see. So with, how would you describe our roles for rental properties? That's another one. I kind of just,
You kind of just took over.
because I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah.
Obviously with me being a real estate agent, I, already have that interest, if you will, in properties.
Yeah. And,
So it just kind of felt natural.
well, and there's been plenty of situations where, there's been a house that's popped up where, one of us has, identified it, and maybe I'm out going from shoot to shoot and need to
Sure.
drive by and go check it out and
Sure. Oh,
see,
yeah.
see if it looks like something we're interested in exploring. Certainly we discuss a lot of different design choices that take place, any different remodel stuff. We always sit down and have a conversation, of course,
Right.
and make sure we're on the same page with before buying another property. But we definitely, I don't know, it's kind of mixed on that one.
Right.
But I mean, I think you being a real estate agent, you tend to take the lead a lot. But I mean, there's been situations where, like, I think one of the coolest stories or funniest stories, it was when I was photographing a house for an agent here in town, and it happened to be in an area that we are pretty heavily invested in terms of the city. And I was photographing the house just like I do every day, and I was just like, huh. And I texted Kim, and I'm like, hey, I think we might want this as a, well, needless to say, kind of made a verbal offer. And obviously,
No, we put it in writing.
well, yeah, of course
Yeah.
it went in writing. Yeah. But I mean, it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, maybe we need to,
Yeah.
so obviously it went through all the normal channels, and we ended up getting it, which is super awesome. We still own it. But anyway, I thought that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think with the Real Home Marketer, our pop by gift tag type of Etsy business, we tag team that pretty well.
Yeah.
You handle all of the marketing,
Yep.
social media for that. That's all you.
Yep.
And then I kind of take the role of managing the shop, the Etsy shop,
Yep.
and assisting clients or customers with any questions that they have on the shop and putting new designs out there.
Yeah. And I would say, I think it's fair to say that I handle a lot of the creative stuff
Sure.
for really all of our.
Sure. With my real estate sales business, you're the one that comes to me and says, hey, you need to put a video out there on this.
Oh,
or, hey,
yes.
you need to
Yes.
make a post about this.
Right.
So creatively speaking, absolutely. That is you for sure.
Yep. And I do a lot of our logo design, which is also what I do for a lot of different companies and specific real estate agents as well come to me for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other thoughts on our roles there?
No, I
Okay.
think it's fair to say that I'm creative and you're a nerd. So we can move on to the next one.
That's fine. Is there any episode so far where you haven't called me a nerd?
I don't think so.
I called myself a nerd in one of them.
Hey, guess what? Smart people rule the world. Okay.
Okay.
Nerds rule the world. So if you're a nerd and you're listening out there and you're one of the smart kids, keep being the smart kid
Yeah.
because everyone else is going to work for you one day. So
There you go. All right. Next question is, how do you stay motivated each day and not feel so overwhelmed with everything on your plates? Well, we do feel overwhelmed at times. There's no magic answer for that.
no, there's definitely not. No, for sure.
Yeah. And I'd say being so passionate about what we do certainly helps. We have defined our why we're doing it.
Mhm.
And so it's helpful to reflect on that in those times where we're feeling overwhelmed. For me personally, being organized, I just can't stress enough how much that helps me feel like I'm not drowning.
Yeah.
It's so huge.
I'll say, if we can go deep here for a second, managing stress it's been a bit of a longer road for me in figuring it out. Back in, I don't know, maybe 2014 or so, I came to, and this is just really important to talk about openly. I finally acknowledged that I was struggling a lot with anxiety issues, something that I had struggled with quite a bit since I was a teenager. And as my responsibilities grew and grew and grew in the work world, naturally there's stress that comes along with that. You're responsible for larger operations, you're responsible for more people. And it was something that I struggled with a lot. It was something that I wasn't sleeping. There were there were times where I would sit there and type emails and reread them over and over and over and over again, because I was always so worried about how I would be viewed and how things that I put out there would be interpreted. And, so I would always try and make sure that everything was as perfect as possible. And it's just, and it's not necessarily that I was like chasing some level of perfection. It was more so that it was a lot of self-imposed pressure. Nobody specifically was putting any type of pressure on me to do any specific thing, or to be a certain somebody. But it was more something in my own head where, I was like, I have to be this, I have to be that. And that was something that, I really struggled with, and I still struggle with to this day. I think a lot of times people will look at us and they kind of think, wow, they're really put together and whatever. And to be fair, I'll give us some credit. We are in many cases, pretty put together. But we're also human like anyone else. And, speaking for myself, eventually, 2014, I kind of got to a point where my anxiety was just through the roof, and it started to become counterproductive. And, I had to accept the fact that I had an issue and I needed to go and talk to someone. And so I, talked to Kim and told her what was going on. And she already kind of knew that what I was struggling with. And, so I, reached out and, started seeing a professional about it, and that completely changed my life. It was something that I was able to sit down and do talk therapy and just talk to an unbiased third party about, why I was feeling the way I was. And, of course, thank goodness, I didn't go down any paths of, any like major depression, or, I didn't turn to alcohol or drugs or anything like that, which I know is the case for so many people. So I'm very, very cognizant of that fact that I was able to, but you know what? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want someone to, if you're having those feelings of anxiety or you're having issues dealing with things, you're not a lesser person for asking for help and reaching out to someone, whether that is a friend or a parent or, you know what? Send me a direct message. I'll talk to you. I'm not a professional, and I'll probably tell you to go and talk to somebody about it. But if you just need to, if you're having a dark day and you're just like, hey man, I just need to just type something and just chat about something really quick, throw it out there. I'll do my best to respond to anything. But, I just want to encourage everyone when it comes to stress management and, recognizing when things are starting to get to an unhealthy level, that you aren't afraid or ashamed to reach out for help. So make sure you do that, guys. And again, it can be a parent, it can be a friend, but at some point, to really, really dig down and deal with things, it's okay to talk to a professional. We need to remove the stigma around.
Yes, we do.
Around mental health, and just recognize that, what, some of the most successful people in the world struggle with these things just like anybody else. And, I'm not one of the most successful people in the world, but, I've accomplished a few things here and there. So, but I've also struggled with a few things. So anyway, that went real deep. Sorry.
It's very, very good though. And the question asked about how do you stay motivated as well? Guys, don't be afraid to really take a hard look at how you're spending your time and who you're spending your time with.
Oh boy.
That's a big piece of it too. If you are around people who are truthfully sucking the motivation out of you, discouraging you, if they're filled with negative talk and thoughts and attitude, you don't need to be around that.
No. And this is one thing that I know some people have rolled their eyes at me about, because I take a pretty hard stance on it, because I don't give a shit if you're a family member or a friend that you've been friends with for 20 years. If you're just this person who's constantly negative and is always the first person to point out some negative aspect of something actually positive that you're trying to do, you I really don't understand why anybody gives that type of person any more of their time or energy. I understand that as humans, you create connections with people, and sometimes it's very hard to break those connections because you start worrying about what they're going to think about you.
And especially if they're family, you'll be, you're going to see them.
Yeah, inevitably, if they're family members, you're probably going to run into them at
right.
Thanksgiving dinner. Not so much this year because of COVID, but
true.
But again, the point still rings true that you have to create boundaries between people who are really not adding a lot of positive energy to your life.
Exactly. Boundaries are good. Boundaries are okay.
Yeah. Because if someone else, because here's the thing, that's their problem. That's not your problem. And it's not your job to fix their problems.
And it's very easy for that type of negativity to rub off on you.
Yeah. Before you even know it. You find yourself bitching and complaining about stuff where you're just like, holy shit, I never used to bitch and complain about this. So take a step back and ask yourself, like, why is this the case? Why is, so there's just a lot of, my God, if we had listened to people who were super negative to us, especially like in our 20s,
there was a lot of it.
We sure as hell wouldn't be sitting here. If we really fed into it and just, and continued to spend time around people who shit on our ideas or were just constantly negative. And in most cases, those people were just pissed off at their own life. They were mad. And that's something key, guys. Think about who's in your circle. Think about how as you grow and as you mature and as you become more successful in what you're doing, it starts to become pretty noticeable how people change around you. And it's just, it's a kind of a shitty part of the human dynamic. But think about that. Because people who you truly want around you are the people who are going to support you no matter what you're doing, unless, of course, it's some sort of destructive behavior. But, again, if it's just, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, there are so many people who are going to try and bring you down because they can't mentally grasp what you're trying to accomplish.
Very true.
I wonder, like Jeff Bezos, richest person on the planet. That dude was selling books out of his garage in the 90s. Do you know how many people, probably his neighbors, I don't know this for sure, but just knowing how, shitty humans are a lot of the time, I wonder how many people were like, there's that crazy guy selling books out of his garage again. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stupid shit like that, anyway.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Very much agree. The next question: who have been your biggest influences that you attribute to your motivation and success, and why? Good question. Whoever submitted that one. I like it. Well,
go ahead.
I have a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have any one person that I attribute everything to, but there have been a few that I think back on, starting with Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
I know a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, kind of started with that book. It's often referred to as the Purple Bible because it's so impactful to a lot of people. What that did for me was really changed the way I look at money and wealth building, as well as business ownership. It really just changed my mindset on that.
And what's cool about that book is that it kind of says certain things that no one else wants to say out loud in terms of the mentality between the rich and the poor. But it's stuff where it's like you hear it and then it's like, oh, yeah, I guess that is a differentiator. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started with reading the book and he has since put out so much other information, many other resources out there. So definitely look into that. It certainly played a role in my thinking on the topics. Brian Elwood has a great podcast out there that I would say has influenced me quite a bit. It's called 12 Houses to Freedom. I should say it was called 12 Houses to Freedom up until I believe a week ago, and it's now called The Aligned Coach. But his concepts are the average American, in order to reach financial freedom, needs, again, on average, 12 rental houses to achieve financial freedom. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about that podcast is it really reaffirms that what you and I are doing, Matt, is possible. And he's provided many other ways for us to think about real estate investing. We have gone down very different paths to get to where we are, but it's very helpful to be able to listen to someone else's story. And as you could tell by the name of the podcast now, The Aligned Coach, he offers coaching on that. So that's, I thought, a very, very influential podcast that I've listened to. And then from real estate sales, Ryan Serhant, for sure.
Yeah.
Not so much the reality TV show part of it, but I listened to his audiobook. He has actually a few different books, and his positivity is unmatched.
Yeah.
And that helps me stay motivated. It helps me have a positive mindset every day. And he tells stories in just a very exciting manner when it comes to real estate, which is obviously something I can relate to. And it's just the positivity, I think, and the, the new ideas that he has when it comes to client relationships and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't go real deep there, but
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
I would say I have a long list, but I'll probably, and you can probably tell by the way I talk about certain things, that Gary Vee is a big inspiration of mine. So look up Gary Vee. He's involved in all kinds of awesome stuff. But what I like about him is that he, and I'll be careful how I say this because I don't believe that you should say everything as it is. I think there's a time and place for everything, but he's really, really good when it comes to talking about entrepreneurship and the types of things that hold people back. He calls it out, and he's brutally honest about decisions that people are making in terms of like what's holding them back in growing their business. He has these. I mean, obviously, he has an incredible YouTube channel with all kinds of amazing content, which, by the way, he puts out there for free. And that was actually a big motivator behind this podcast. It's like, we have all these great experiences and all this, cool information to share. Let's put this out there. That's for people. I'm not going to charge someone to listen to this podcast, right? And anyway, he puts a bunch of information out there for free, and he's someone where when I'm listening to him, if I'm creating some sort of excuse within myself, because that's natural, we all do it, I'm sure, and Gary Vee has said he does it himself, he'll call it out, and I'll hear him say something, I'll be like, God, damn it, Matt, stop doing that, or stop telling yourself that. And so yeah, he just seems to be always right. But I actually quoted him within the first few pages of my book, Stop Listening, which is available on Amazon. And his quote is, "Without hustle, talent will only carry you so far." And man, is that true. That really, really, really is. So he's also a branding mastermind. So I follow a lot of his marketing strategies and just all the different advice that I love watching the videos where he's doing like a round table with other businesses, and they're like having conversations around those specific lanes and what they're trying to accomplish. And he's just kind of just throwing out very honest opinions and dialogue and specific actions of what they need to do. And it's just, I mean, by the way, TikTok, he was on the TikTok train way before anybody else. I remember watching him talking about TikTok like multiple years ago.
I remember you telling me about it at the time.
And I remember me saying like, we should probably create a TikTok.
And I'm like, go away.
Yep.
Stop bothering me.
Yep. And boy, if we could have 1 million followers. Anyway. But anyway, he's always on top of like the latest trends, and
yeah,
it's just he's a good fountain of knowledge to tap into. So go check him out for sure. He absolutely does not need me to say that.
Yeah.
He has a massive online following, obviously, but
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's awesome. And then I would say from a photography and cinematography standpoint, I would say Casey Neistat, who's kind of the godfather of YouTube. I would definitely put him. He's definitely on like the Mount Rushmore of YouTubers. We saw him in person.
I was
once.
about to ask, is that who we saw in New York?
Yeah, so we were staying in Soho.
So we basically are friends with him.
Yep, best friends. we were staying in Soho in New York City, and we were just out walking around doing the touristy thing, and it's really weird. I have a tendency to like say things and then it happens.
You fully predicted we would run into him.
It's super strange. And I knew from his daily vlogs that he also lives in Soho and he's a big runner. And so as we were walking around, I'm like, oh, I've seen this place before in Casey Neistat's vlogs. I said, I wonder if we'll run into him. And literally like less than 5 minutes later, there he goes. He jogs right by us. And we said hello. I didn't want to stop him because he was jogging and I didn't want to be that guy. So I just said, hey, Casey. And he just waved at us and kept running.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, look at us. We're best friends.
And then for the rest of the trip, I told you to visualize us meeting Bruno Mars so that would come to life.
That didn't happen.
That's all
We saw
right.
Jane Lynch, though. That was pretty cool. Walking into our hotel. That's kind of cool. Oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to tell another story. So our favorite hotel in New York City. Do you want to tell the world? Do you remember the name? Okay. My favorite hotel.
It's my favorite hotel, but
anyway, it's called the Dominic.
that's it.
Yeah, it's an incredible hotel in Soho. It's really, really awesome. It's unreasonably expensive, but it's incredible. You pay for a really cool experience while you're there. Anyway, we were coming down from our room to just go about our day, and the elevator door opens, and what do you know? It's Dave Navarro, the guitar player from Jane's Addiction and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool, and he was the nicest human on planet Earth. And we got on the elevator, and it was just the three of us. And for a few awkward seconds, I 100% was like, "Oh my god, it's Dave Navarro. Holy crap!" And he just started.
He was so nice.
Yeah, so he initiated the conversation, and we just started talking to me about the camera, of course, that I always have on me. And so we just started talking about photography, and he's asking us where we're from. And anyway, he's just he was what you would hope a famous person like that would be. And he was just a regular guy. He was
awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. That was kind of fun.
And that's totally actually relevant to this question because it's asking about your biggest influencers, and I'm sure he influenced your guitar playing.
Of course.
And that's, a huge part of your life.
Yes, absolutely.
So
that
there you
was
go.
I
Full
was,
circle. Totally relevant.
I was total fangirl, but I kept it together.
Yeah. We didn't bother him asking for an autograph or a selfie.
No, we didn't. And because we were
out of respect.
Yeah, we're staying in the same hotel, and I'm sure when someone like that goes into a hotel, that becomes kind of their safe space, I would imagine. Yeah. So we're not going to bother him. But anyway, as far as photography and cinematography, I said Casey Neistat. Peter McKinnon's another one. He's incredible. And I'd probably say Becky and Chris. Go and check them out. They're incredible. They talk about everything from. They have a helicopter and they do really cool helicopter stuff, and that's super fun. But they do a lot of drone stuff. They do a ton of cinematography. They do a lot of interior design stuff. He's a physician, and she does a lot of photography and cinematography and all kinds of. I think they just came out with some cool products recently, so they're just amazing. So go check that out. I could list like 50 more, but those are those seem to be the three that I watch most frequently.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty. Next, I think I keep saying alrighty between every question.
Alrighty.
Sorry, friends.
Alrighty.
What is your biggest fear when you got started, and how did that change? It's a big one.
By the way, if you hear moaning in the background, just so you know, we have 2 pit bulls and a dachshund. The dachshund's the boss. And
we've got some rescue dogs here.
Yeah, and the 2 pits are sitting under our table here, and one of them is just being weird. So
it's dinner time for them.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So biggest fear. I don't know that mine has changed too often from the day that I decided to leave my position and become self-employed full-time. I think my fear was financial failure and having to go back to working for someone else.
Yeah.
After making that huge decision and taking that leap, then to ultimately have to go back if it wasn't what I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
Because when I made that leap, that was for life. That's a forever move for me. Yep. And the idea of losing the option of doing that if it wasn't, a part of my path. To me, I don't know. That's a huge fear.
Yeah.
Was a huge fear, I would say.
Yeah. And one of the things about that is you and I never went into any of our businesses with the thought in our mind that, well, I could always just go back to, we have, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I could just go back to work
I'm
if I
so
wanted
glad
to.
you brought that up, because that was spoken to us by people very close to us numerous times.
For sure.
And when it would be said to us, my thought was always, wait a minute. Why would I be making this huge business move and jumping into this
With a mental crutch.
Right. Thinking that I'm just trying it out? No, this is it. This is the decision we're making.
We're jumping head first.
And kind of going back to Ryan Serhant, if I do remember a piece of his book talks about how every single day he is motivated by fear, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, but he thinks back to where he came from and how badly he wants to make sure he never finds himself there again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, well, like you said, I think there's that's a form of positive fear.
I would say that's healthy. He's not crippled by it. He doesn't wake up worried, but there are times when he can reflect back on that and remember where he does not want to be again in his life. Yeah. And that's a healthy amount of fear, if you will, to be motivated by. Yeah.
And we're also, and I know this is less fear and more motivation based, but we're also really motivated by the feeling incredibly grateful for where we are. Like you and I talk about that all the time. We'll just sit there and be like, this is crazy. I mean, we'll sit back and let's be real here. We'll sit back and be like, we'll be doing the books or something. And we'll say, wow, like we've generated some really great revenue. Wow. We own all these properties. We're only 33 years old. And we sit there and we are so grateful to be in the position that we're in. And don't get me wrong, we have a long way to go. And we are by far not the most successful people in the world.
No,
and,
of course not.
It's not like as soon as you have a net worth of $1 million that you just put it on autopilot. In fact, I would argue it's the complete opposite.
It is the opposite.
When your net worth hits $1 million, it's just kind of like, oh, holy shit. Okay, let's get back to work. Right. So it's anyway, it's just one of those things where we talk about it all the time. Not necessarily, oh, we have this. It's more, wow, we have incredible clients. We have people who depend on us for services and for products and for a positive customer experience. People who are putting their time and their trust and confidence in us to do what we do in our various businesses. And that is something that it's just not lost on us. We're just very, very, very cognizant of it. And I know, if I make a mistake, and we all do, if I make a mistake with a client, whatever that may be, I mean, I beat myself up over it. I mean, I really do, because that person's business means so much to me, and not just financially, but just being part of, there's a relationship there, the fact that that's one key component to our overall success. It's just something that you see it all the time. You see people, you'll see business owners that treat their customers like shit, and you're just like, what are you doing? Like, you realize that without those people, you have no business. You have no income. You have no, you can have a dream, but you sure as hell aren't going to be able to fulfill it.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. That's something that I wouldn't say it's a fear, but it's more of just that feeling of just being grateful for the life that we have, and the opportunity to work hard.
Right.
Is something that we wake up every day and not only verbalize, but we put into action.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it our last episode? I believe episode 3 or 4, where we talked about taking that leap into these self-employed businesses that we own, we talked a lot about the fears that we had when doing that in that episode. Were there any other specific fears that you had that that may have changed over time?
I think I was a little bit worried that people were. I think I was probably worried that people were judging us a little bit.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, again, big theme in our podcast here is that, the traditional way of thinking is really starting to become secondary to people who want to start businesses and do things that aren't necessarily taught in our society today. So I was definitely worried that someone's going to think like I'm a crazy person for leaving my job that paid well and that I'd worked really hard to cultivate. But and same thing for you.
Yeah.
Same thing for you. So I think that's natural. As humans, I think we all fear what people are going to think about us, which is also one of the reasons why I love Gary Vee, because he's constantly like, fuck that. He's like, there is no reason why you should, you can't let that consume you. You really, really can't, guys. It's your life.
Exactly.
It is your life. And guess what? Your parents aren't paying your bills. Your siblings aren't paying your bills. Your uncle and aunt aren't paying your bills. So at some point you really have to step back and be like, why am I letting those opinions dictate what makes me happy in life? Because at the end of the day, it's you doing the work. It's you going after your dreams. It's not what, Uncle Jim over there is doing. And his or her opinion is not, again, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling. This
is good. This
topic kind of gets me fired up because I know it could be I think it's
because we've seen it.
We've seen it, and I know that there are so many people who are listening right now who aren't pursuing their dreams because they are worrying too much about what their friends and family are going to think of them. And I want anyone who's in that position right now to really, really take some time and think about that and stop it.
All right.
Oh, wait, there was one question that came in last minute, which is if you had an extra hour in the day.
Ah, yes.
What would you do
question.
with it?
Oof. Well, you're asking me today. Today, I would say I would like to go paint my kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
That's on my mind today.
Yeah. That would take more than an hour.
Especially with me doing it. It'll take a year.
I don't know if I had an extra.
What would we do?
If I had an extra hour, I'd probably create some more bracelet designs that I've had stuck in my head for 6 months that I haven't had time to put out there.
I'd probably create some tag designs. I mean, that's not necessarily it's not our main business by any means. Right. An extra hour could give the opportunity for some new tag designs to be put out there on our Etsy shop.
Yeah. My brain's probably like, you need to sleep, man. Take the hour and take a nap.
Yeah.
But
maybe take the dogs for a walk.
Oh.
Although there's snow on the ground today.
Yeah. And poor Mr. Fritz, he's a low rider.
Yeah. Oh,
poor
yeah.
Buddy. Anyway. All right, guys. Well,
thank you so much for these questions.
Yeah, this was really great. I hope you, we hope you enjoyed our answers. I know we went on a few tangents, but I think that's what's awesome about the Q&A forum is that it kind of branches into different things. And we really appreciate you taking the time to comment all your thoughtful questions. And we hope you do it again. Be on the lookout for all of our social media. It's a Couple of Bills podcast across all platforms. Be sure to go give us a follow. And we'll put out there when we do the next Q&A, which I'm sure will be in a few weeks. But this podcast is growing pretty quickly. We have quite a few listeners, which is
it's amazing. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, which is really, really incredible. We're so grateful for you guys, and we hope to interact with you more. At some point, by the way, we are going to start taking calls.
Woohoo!
So that's going to be really cool. So be on the lookout for that. But anyway, everybody have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay healthy, stay happy, and be a good person.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.